everyday. Okay na ba yung camera ko? Parang...
Hello, mabati ninyo akong tingog?
Mabati man.
Diyos ko nga banal, pakuski ang mong signal.
OMG, yes. Amen.
Okay guys,
Okay, mag-start na ta.
Let's start na the discussion.
Okay, go. Let's start na.
Greetings to everyone and welcome to this discussion titled Tagay May Pekogrado. So, I'm King Gabiola and I'm honored to be your host for today. As you might or might not have guessed from the title, today we are discussing about quantitative research. The key characteristics of quantitative research is that it's either descriptive or experimental. Its data is gathered through structured instruments. There are clearly defined research questions to which objective answers are sought. And lastly, it aims to classify features, count them, and construct statistical models in an attempt to explain what is observed. But to further understand what quantitative research is about, let us welcome our esteemed guest speakers, Ms. Gian Bicoy, Ms. Jana Boca, Ms. Althea Tumanda, Ms. Jennifer Larga, and Ms. Alvinin D. Chipmunks. Our first speaker for today is Ms. Bicoy, who will be discussing about the strengths of quantitative research.
Thank you, Sir Kane. As what he said, I am Gian Bicoy and I'll be discussing about the advantages in quantitative research. Quantitative studies' great strength is providing data that is descriptive. For example, allowing us to capture a snapshot of the user population. Quantitative data are pieces of information that can be counted and which are usually gathered by surveys from a large numbers of respondents randomly selected for inclusion, and I'll be discussing the advantages in using quantitative research and I'll be sampling this research. Combined teaching method and experimental study, World Journal of Education, to see how they take advantage of this study using quantitative methods. Number 1. Quantitative approach allows you to reach a higher sample size. When you have the ability to study a larger sample size for any hypothesis, then it is easier to reach an accurate generalized conclusion. The first reason to understand why a larger sample size is beneficial is simple. Larger samples more closely approximate the population. Because the primary goal of inferential statistics is to generalize from a sample to a population. It is less of an inference if the sample size is larger. In a sample study, they took advantage of the number of teachers and students to have a statistical number and how effective different types of teaching methods there are, and contrasting in how the students will perform in different types of methods, thus maximizing the amount of data they can collect. Number 2. You can collect information quickly when using quantitative research. Researchers collect information for the quantitative research process in real-time scenarios so that the statistical analysis can occur almost immediately. The task was to finish the questions independently based on their own learning conditions for 60 minutes. So in that time, they have collected numerous amounts of data in just a few minutes because they were asked at the same time. Number 3. Quantitative research uses randomized samples. When research participants suspect that a study wants to achieve a specific result, then their personal bias can enter into the data spectrum. By drawing a random sample from a larger population, the goal is that the sample will be representative of the larger group and is less likely to be subject to bias. For any type of research on a population, using representative sample to make inferences and generalizations about a larger group is critical. A biased sample can lead to incorrect conclusions being drawn from about a larger population. For example, participants were randomly selected from available recurring fifth-year students, randomized students for the study to predict which is the most effective teaching method. Number 4. Results duplication is possible when using quantitative research. When opinions are a valid substitute for facts, then anything becomes possible. Quantitative research eliminates this problem because it only focuses on actual data. The participants in the experimental group were instructed to combine teaching methods, while those in the control group were only taught through traditional lectures. Contrasting the different types of methods to see accurate information, and the students were randomized. Number 5. Quantitative research can focus on the facts or a series of information. This method is also useful when a research of the data points are highly desirable within a particular demographic. It is a process that lets us understand the reasons behind our decisions, behaviors, or actions from a societal viewpoint. Number 6. The research performed with a quantitative approach is anonymous. As long as the researchers can verify the individuals in the demographic profile of their study group, there is no need to provide personal information. The anonymous nature of quantitative research makes it useful for data collection because people are more likely to share an honest perspective when they are guaranteed that their personal feedback will come back to haunt them. Number 7. Quantitative research doesn't require direct observation to be useful. Researchers must follow specific protocols when using quantitative method, but there isn't a requirement to directly observe each participant. That means a study can send surveys to individuals without the need to have someone in the room while they provide questions. This advantage creates a better response rate because people have more time and less pressure to complete the work. In conclusion, qualitative research can measure and describe whole societies or institutions, organizations, or groups, individuals that are a part of them. The strength of quantitative methods is that they can provide vital information about a society or community through surveys, examinations, or records, or census that no individual can obtain through direct observation.
Thank you, Ms. Jian. Now that we know that quantitative research has its strong points, let us also know about its weak points. To be discussing this, let us welcome Ms. Jana Boca.
Thank you, Kane. So once again, hi everyone. I am Janice Boca and I am one of your guest speaker for today's virtual meeting. So as Gian discussed earlier, the strengths of quantitative research, it's no doubt that alongside it are its weaknesses. So as your speaker for today, I'll be discussing these weaknesses that can hinder the success of conducting a quantitative research. And without further ado, let us begin. I have 5 weaknesses of quantitative research. So the first one is by being context to its surroundings. This simply means that the researchers must or need to conduct their study or experiment in a controlled place, in a controlled setting, in which the means of their experiment are being or will be controlled by them to prove the original hypothesis of the study, rather than conducted in a natural setting where the results may be different. Take for an example, there are 2 wild animals, lions. One lion is placed in a zoo while the other is freed in the forest. The necessities of the lion in the zoo are manipulated or controlled by the zookeeper, while the one in the forest or wild have already those necessities in a natural way. So by balancing or picturing the both of them, it's no doubt that the results are different, maybe physically, physiologically, psychology, and their personality. So that's one of the weaknesses of quantitative research. So the second weaknesses is having poor research expertise. Having poor research expertise will affect the researcher's analysis negatively. Of course, it is important to note that before conducting any research, may it be quantitative or qualitative, researchers must be knowledgeable enough to know what paradigm they will be using. As today, our main topic is quantitative research. Learning the basics and understanding its niche and process will help the researchers pass through its difficulties along the way. Rather than repeating it over and over again because of using incorrect models, that leads to incorrect data analysis and incorrect data interpretation, which could then render to invalid results. The third one is being costly, both time and money. This actually means that quantitative research takes a long time with much effort to be done and is also expensive to do too. However, lucky enough that we are in a flexible learning and not in a face-to-face because of the pandemic, our expenses will mostly be in its final term paper and not on surveys and rejected proposals, as it can be done online. For our fourth weaknesses of quantitative research, we have the variability of data quantity. What does it mean? So, from the word quantity, it means the total quota, the total amount, or total mass. So, this type of research needs large population or respondents for its accuracy, because if not, the research will then be labeled as unreliable or invalid. This simply explains that the larger the sample population of the study is, the more accurate and reliable the result tend to be. However, there are various ideal sample sizes in each kinds of quantitative research, so it depends really on what kind the researchers will be using in their study. And we're done on our last weaknesses of quantitative research. It's all about confirmation bias, or its false focus on numbers. While doing the experiment, researchers tend to focus more on its statistical results from the question how, where, and when to get the answer of the question what. And with this, they might miss the opportunity to observe the other significant things that could also benefit to their study. And that's our 5 weaknesses of quantitative research. First is giving context to our surroundings. Second is having poor research expertise. Third is being costly, both time and money. And fourth is the variability of data quantity, or the need of large sample population. And to our fifth and our last one is being confirmation bias, or the false focus on numbers. So to sum up, these pros and cons of quantitative research are crucial to recognize and to be understood by the researchers for them to determine how to effectively conduct a quantitative research by focusing on its strengths and avoiding its weaknesses or limitations. So thank you and God bless.
Thank you, Ms. Jana. So, quantitative research has its ups and downs, but it also has many types. If you're interested in using this paradigm of research, you have to know about these types as well. To be discussing this, let us welcome Ms. Alvin in. Thank you, King. Okay. Once again, I am Alvin in the Chipmunks, and I am the author of Average Nuts in One Sack. I'm honored to be one of your guest speakers. To not waste any time, I'll just speed through explaining this, and if you have any additional questions, just email it to barney@isadinosaur.edu. Okay, for the types of quantitative research that are commonly recognized, first is descriptive. Descriptive, the keyword here is defines the existing condition of a classified variable. Okay, so basically it answers the who, what, when, where, and how. Because It's simply just describing, however, it doesn't explain the why. Okay? No whys. The second is correlational. Correlational, the keyword for this is defines the degree of relationship between two or more variables. So the important word we must keep in mind is relationship, because your concern is to interpret relationships among a number of facts. The third type, commonly recognized type, is a survey. Survey. Yes. Acquiring information that concerns predominance, distribution, and interrelations of variables within a chosen group or groups of people. So, what this means is how we are finding out about how things are spread out like that, and how dominant is one thing from the other. And lastly, what all of these things mean in conclusion. Example of variables that can be included in the research is like knowledge. Like a knowledge, the amount of knowledge that people have about one thing, or about attitude, okay? How people are acting in or about a certain thing. And then you can also have opinions, how people are opinionated about something. So you can also have values of people about various subjects. So that's survey. The fourth type is casual comparative. Casual comparative ascertain cause and effect relationships among variables. Based on that, you might think, because it's cause and effect, that this is experimental. But we must remember that the key differences include that first, in casual comparative research, an independent variable is identified but not manipulated. And the effects of the independent variable on the dependent variable are measured. So that's what makes casual comparative research unique from a true experiment, because of that. So lastly, we have experimental. Okay, through experimentation. So while casual comparative sounded like an experimentation, this is the actual through experimentation, the experimental research. So because it is an experimental research, this is it happens that scientific method is used to probe cause-effect relationship among a group of variables that make up a study. Its key features are: first, it imposes control over all variables except one. And two, an independent variable is manipulated to determine the effects on the dependent one. And three, subjects are randomly assigned rather than identified in naturally occurring groups. So, choosing what type of quantitative research should depend on what you want to achieve in your study. For example, Cohen et al. 2020 study aimed to describe the related experiences and perspectives of a national sample of college students. So, they used descriptive research. And for Fang et al. 2015, where they aimed to have an experimental method at studying the effect of fatigue on construction workers' safety performance. So, they used experimental research. So, that's it for my discussion. I hope you all learned something and please to forward your additional questions through my email. For now, I just have to sashay away. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Albinin. So now that we know all of this, to be really sure that you want to use quantitative research, let us know what it has that its counterpart, qualitative research, doesn't have. To guide us in this, let us welcome Ms. Jennifer Larga.
Hi, I am Jennifer Zambrano Larga and I am here to discuss about the difference between qualitative research and quantitative research. Qualitative research is documented in writing. It's used to understand concepts, ideas, and feelings. Qualitative approaches include open-ended interviews, observations expressed in words, and literature review that study concepts and theories. Numbers and graphs are used in quantitative research. It's utilized to put hypotheses and assumptions to the test or to confirm them. This form of study can be utilized to come up with generalizable facts about a subject. Experiments, observations recorded as numbers, and surveys with closed-ended questions are all common quantitative procedures. Both research use various research approaches to collect and assess data, and here are the different types of research questions. The major goal of a qualitative research are to explore concepts and build a theory or hypothesis, but in quantitative study, on the other hand, focuses on putting theories and hypotheses to the test. In qualitative research, summarizing, categorizing, and analyzing data are used to conduct the analysis, but in quantitative, math and statistical analysis are used to examine the situation. A qualitative research is mostly represented through words, but numbers and graphs and tables are the most common forms of expression in quantitative research. Also, in qualitative research, only a few individuals are required to respond, but in quantitative, it necessitates the participation of a large number of people. Lastly, in a qualitative research, open-ended inquiries and understanding context, complexity, and subjectivity are key. In quantitative research, closed multiple questions are used. The terms testing, measuring objectivity, and replicability are what's important. And here is my sample research. According to Alawemli MAL, PWAY, LM, and ALSAT GR 2020 study titled The Effect of Online Learning on Communication Between Instructors and Students During COVID-19 Pandemic. It's a quantitative study that tackles to explore whether online learning has an effect on communication between instructors and students in a negative way, whether online learning affects students' productivity levels, and to evaluate and suggest ways of improving effective online communication between instructors and students. AS Ferus 2020 is a qualitative study that impact on COVID-19 pandemic of mental health and well-being of communities. This study will help us to explore the perception and attitudes towards the COVID-19 pandemic and its impact on the daily lives and mental well-being of individuals in the community. Besides, an in-depth understanding of the needs in the community will be identified, which will develop us to context-specific innovative mental health programs to support communities in the future. This study will provide insights into how communities are managing their lives under such a difficult situation. However, the difference between quantitative and qualitative research is obvious in that ALOM became AL, T-weight, LM, and AL SAT GR 2020 is study used in quantitative research study which was conducted through a semi-structured online survey, while ES-FIROS 2020, this formative research will employ an explanatory qualitative research design using semi-structured interviews and a purposive sampling approach. The data collection methods for this formative research will include help interviews with community members. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jennifer. So, now that we have a fuller picture of what quantitative research is about, let us also know why this kind of research is important. To guide us in this, let us welcome Ms. Althea Tumanda.
Hi guys, good day. My name is Althea Christine Tumanda and I am going to discuss the importance or the significance of a quantitative research. The significance of quantitative research is that it aids in the analysis of samples and populations. It goes into specific details including where the data came from, gaps in the data, and what data research exclusions there are. The quantitative research outlines the variables that will be assessed, provides the full descriptions of the methods that will be used to get relevant data, and lists crucial criteria. Quantitative research is important because it allows you to describe in the depth of process or procedure for both processing and analyzing data, as well as the precise tools utilized to explore the research objective. The results of the research are written in a precise and objective style using a quantitative method. Non-textual features such as graphs, charts, and tables are included to provide a summary of the available data. It also clarifies key topics so that readers can fully comprehend the information as intended. Quantitative research aims to gain better understanding of the social world through data collections. Quantitative methods are used by researchers to observe conditions of events that have impact on people. Quantitative research yields objective data that can be expressed effectively using statistics and numbers. So according to Davis 2021, quantitative research is important especially in our daily lives because the quantitative approach is so vital even in our daily lives because in most, if not all things we do in life, we measure to see how much there is of something. Quantitative method is part of our daily life even from birth. Data are constantly being collected, assessed, and reassessed as we grow. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Althea, and once again, thank you to all of our speakers. Now that we have reached the end of our discussion, I hope that we might be of help for your future research endeavors. For now, all I have to say is thank you, goodbye, and God bless.